She was tall, beautiful, and rich. Her father, Alhaji Musa, was a wealthy businessman in Lagos, and he made sure Aisha had everything she wanted. But there was one thing she did not have: true love. From the time she was 18, Aisha had been looking for love. She met many handsome men, but they all wanted only one thing: her money. Aisha did not mind at first. She enjoyed spending money on them. She bought them expensive clothes, cars, and even paid for their trips abroad. But in the end, they always left her for someone else. Now, Aisha was 28 years old. She was tired. She had given up on love. I will never marry, she told herself. I will just enjoy my life alone. One evening, she sat in her living room, watching TV. Her best friend, Kemi, was with her. Aisha, you are too beautiful to remain single, Kemi said.
I am done with men. They are all the same. They love my money, not me.
Not all men are like that, Kemi said. Maybe you just have not met the right one. Aisha sighed. Even if I meet the right man, I am not sure I will love him. But fate had a different plan for her. 1 week later, Aisha traveled to Abuja for a business meeting. She was the CEO of her father's company, and she had to attend an important event. The meeting was at a big hotel, and many rich businessmen were there. That was where she met Chidi. Chidi was different from the men Aisha had known. He was not only rich, but he was also confident and intelligent. He owned many businesses in Nigeria and abroad. When Aisha first saw him, she was impressed. Chidi walked up to her. Good evening, beautiful lady. My name is Chidi. Aisha smiled. Good evening. I am Aisha. They started talking, and for the first time in years, Aisha felt something different. Chidi was not after her money. He had his own. He was also kind and funny. But there was a problem. Chidi had a strong Igbo accent. Whenever he spoke, Aisha found it hard to take him seriously. She had grown up in Lagos, where people spoke English fluently, and she was not used to Chidi's way of speaking. Aisha, I wanted to tell you something, Chidi said one evening when they were having dinner. Aisha tried not to laugh. Go on.
I like you well. In fact, I love you. I want to make you be my wife.
Aisha's heart skipped a beat. She liked Chidi too, but she could not imagine spending her life with a man whose accent made her laugh every time he spoke. She looked at him and smiled. Chidi, you are a wonderful man. But... Chidi leaned closer. But wetin? Talk to me, my beautiful queen. Aisha sighed. Nothing. Let's just enjoy our dinner. That night, she could not sleep. She liked Chidi. He was everything she wanted in a man. But could she handle his accent? Would she ever get used to it? Days passed, and Chidi continued to show Aisha love. He sent her flowers, took her on vacations, and treated her like a queen. Everyone around Aisha could see that Chidi truly loved her. Even Kemi told her, Aisha, don't let this man go. He is the best thing that has ever happened to you. But Aisha was still confused. One evening, Chidi invited Aisha to his house. He had planned a romantic dinner for her. There were candles everywhere, and soft music was playing in the background. Aisha, you know say I love you die, Chidi said. I fit do anything for you. Just say yes, make we marry. Aisha's heart melted. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to be with Chidi. But then, he spoke again, baby, I don't buy big ring for you. If you agree, I go put on for your finger now. Aisha covered her mouth to stop herself from laughing. She knew it was wrong, but she could not help it. Chidi noticed. Aisha, why you dey laugh? Wetin I talk? Aisha shook her head. It's nothing. I need to think. Chidi's face fell. You no wan marry me? Aisha looked into his eyes. Chidi, I love you. But wetin again? Chidi asked. Aisha, talk to me. Aisha took a deep breath. Chidi, your accent. Chidi frowned. My accent? Wetin do my accent? Aisha did not know what to say. She did not want to hurt him. But she also knew she had to be honest. Chidi stood up. So now my accent dey worry you? No wahala. I go try change am. Aisha felt terrible. She did not want Chidi to change. She just wanted to know if she could live with it. Days passed. Aisha lay on her soft, expensive bed, staring at the ceiling. It had been 3 days since she met Chidi, and she still couldn't stop thinking about him. Everything about him was perfect, his confidence, his wealth, his charm. But his accent. She sighed and rolled over, picking up her phone. Her best friend, Zainab, had sent her a message. Zainab, babe, how far? How was your date with Mr. Billionaire? Eyes filled with tears of joy. Aisha hissed and replied. Aisha, it was okay, but his Igbo accent is just too much. Zainab responded almost immediately. Zainab, so? Is he not speaking English? Or do you want him to sound like an American movie star? Aisha, I beg don't let this one go. Oh. Aisha sighed. She knew Zainab was right, but something in her just couldn't overlook it. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was him. She hesitated before answering. Hello, Aisha, Chidi's deep voice filled her ear. Hi, she replied, sitting up. I was just thinking about you, he said. I really enjoyed our dinner. You are a special woman. Aisha smiled. Thank you, Chidi. That's kind of you to say. I would like to see you again, he continued. Can I take you out tomorrow? She paused. A part of her wanted to say no, to avoid hearing that accent again. But another part of her wanted to give him a chance. Okay, she finally said. Tomorrow it is. The second date. The next evening, Chidi picked Aisha up in his black Mercedes G-Wagon. As he stepped out of the car to open the door for her, she noticed how sharp he looked. Dressed in a tailored suit, his gold wristwatch gleamed under the streetlights. Wow, she whispered to herself. You look beautiful, Chidi said, flashing his signature smile. Thank you, she said, stepping into the car. They drove to one of the most exclusive restaurants in Lagos. The waiters rushed to attend to them, treating Chidi like royalty. As they ate, Chidi spoke about his business empire, his family, and his dreams. I built my first company with just more money we remained from my NYSC allowance, he said. Now, we don't turn am to big empire. Aisha winced. We remain. She struggled to hold back her reaction. She liked him. She really did. But this was difficult for her. An unexpected proposal. A month passed, and Aisha found herself growing closer to Chidi. He was caring, generous, and treated her like a queen. One evening, they were on a private yacht, sailing across the Lagos Lagoon. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Chidi turned to her, holding her hand. Aisha, I have never met a woman like you before, he said, his deep voice filled with emotion. You bring joy to my life. I want you to be my wife. Aisha's heart pounded. She liked him. She really did. But could she truly live with that accent forever? Aisha's heart raced as Chidi held her hand, his deep Igbo voice echoing in her ears. I want you to be my wife. The words hung in the air like a spell. The yacht rocked gently on the Lagos lagoon, the city lights twinkling in the distance. The setting was perfect, the moment magical. But inside her, there was a storm. She looked into Chidi's eyes. He was serious. His grip on her hand was firm, strong, just like the man he was. A part of her wanted to scream yes. He was everything she had ever wanted, rich, kind, handsome, powerful. But that accent. It wasn't bad. It wasn't ugly. It was just thick. It filled every sentence, every word, like pounded yam too heavy for her to swallow. Aisha, Chidi said, squeezing her hand. I love you. Say something, Ene. She swallowed hard. Chidi. I don't know what to say. Say yes, my love, he said softly. Aisha's lips parted, but the words refused to come out. What if she married him and later regretted it? What if every time he spoke, she felt the same discomfort? Would love be enough to cover it? I need time, she finally said. Chidi's smile faded slightly, but he nodded. I understand. They spent the rest of the evening in silence. That night, Aisha couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, her mind filled with thoughts. She picked up her phone and called Zainab. Babe, he proposed, she whispered. Zainab screamed so loudly Aisha had to move the phone away from her ear. Aisha, this is good news. Zainab shouted. What did you say? I told him I needed time. Why? Aisha sighed. Zainab, you know why. I can't get past his accent. There was silence on the line. Then Zainab said, Aisha, you have dated men with perfect accents before. Where are they now? Aisha didn't answer. Let me help you, Zainab continued. They took your money and ran. This one loves you. Are you really going to let something as small as an accent make you lose a good man? Aisha shut her eyes. She hated that Zainab was right. But why did this feel so hard? Over the next few days, Aisha avoided Chidi's calls. She didn't know what to tell him. Then, one evening, he sent her a message. Chidi, Aisha, I can feel you pulling away. If you don't want me, tell me. I will respect your decision. Aisha felt a sharp pain in her chest. Did she want to lose him? Could she truly walk away from a man who had given her nothing but love? She needed to make a choice. And fast. Aisha sat on her balcony, staring at Chidi's message. If you don't want me, tell me. I will respect your decision. Her chest felt tight. She had spent years chasing men who only cared about her money. Now she had finally found one who loved her for real, one who was even richer than her, yet she was hesitating because of an accent. She sighed. Maybe she was the problem. She picked up her phone, her fingers trembling as she typed. Aisha, Chidi, I'm sorry for avoiding you. Can we meet tomorrow? The reply came almost immediately. Chidi, of course, my love. I will pick you up by 7 p.m. She exhaled deeply. Tomorrow, she would finally tell him how she felt. The next evening, Chidi arrived right on time. He was dressed in a simple but elegant kaftan, his gold wristwatch catching the light as he opened the car door for her. You look stunning, he said as she stepped in. Thank you, she replied, forcing a smile. They drove in silence for a while before Chidi finally spoke. Aisha, talk to me. What is wrong? Aisha inhaled sharply. It's now or never. Chidi, she started, choosing her words carefully, I like you. I really do. You are kind, generous, and everything a woman could ever want in a man. Chidi smiled. But. She hesitated, then continued, but. I struggle with your accent. The smile slowly faded from his face. My accent. Aisha nodded. I know it sounds silly, but it's hard for me. I grew up in the north, and I'm used to hearing a different kind of English. Sometimes when you speak, I just get distracted. Chidi was silent for a long time. Then, he let out a small chuckle. Aisha, let me ask you something, he said, turning to her. Do you think I don't notice your own accent too? Aisha's eyes widened. What? Chidi smiled. Of course, I do. You pronounce words differently from me. Sometimes I even find it funny. But do you see me complaining? Aisha blinked. She had never thought of it that way. Love is not about how we sound, Chidi continued. It's about how we feel. It's about how we treat each other. You are worried about my accent. On, my dear, that is a small thing. Aisha bit her lip. She felt silly now. I never even thought about it like that, she admitted. Chidi reached for her hand. I love you, Aisha. I don't care how you sound. I only care about the woman you are. The question is, can you do the same for me? Aisha looked into his eyes. Could she? Would she let go of something so small and embrace a man who truly loved her? Her heart was pounding. She had to make a decision. Aisha's heart raced as she stared into Chidi's deep brown eyes. Can you do the same for me? The question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Could she truly let go of her hesitation? She swallowed hard. Chidi. I don't know. His grip on her hand tightened slightly, then he slowly let go. He leaned back in his seat, exhaling. Aisha, he said, his voice calm but firm, if you cannot accept me as I am, then what are we doing? His words hit her like a slap. She felt her stomach twist. This was a man who had given her nothing but love. A man who had never once looked down on her. A man who had everything, money, power, respect, yet still chose her. But now, she was about to lose him over something as small as an accent. She closed her eyes. She saw all the men from her past, the ones she had thrown her money at, the ones who had sweet, polished accents but empty hearts. She thought of Chidi, his generosity, his kindness, the way he made her feel safe. Was she really about to let this go? When she opened her eyes, she saw Chidi reaching for his car keys. Maybe we should go, he said. His voice was quiet. Aisha panicked. If he drove off now, that would be the end. No more calls. No more text. No more him. Her heart made the decision before her mind could stop it. Wait. Chidi turned to her, his eyes questioning. Aisha took a deep breath. I choose you, she said softly. Chidi didn't speak. He just stared at her, as if trying to make sure he heard correctly. I choose you, she repeated, stronger this time. I don't care about the accent anymore. I was being foolish. You're right, love is more than words. And I love you, Chidi. For a moment, he just looked at her. Then, his face broke into a slow, wide smile. Aisha, he said, his deep voice filled with warmth. You don't know how happy you just made me. She felt a tear slide down her cheek. She had been blind before. But now, she saw it clearly. Love was not in how the words were spoken, but in the meaning behind them. Chidi reached out, cupping her face gently. You will not regret this, he whispered. I promise. And for the first time in her life, Aisha truly believed it. Aisha had made her choice. She had chosen love over fear. She had chosen Chidi. But choosing him was only the beginning. When Aisha told her family about Chidi, all hell broke loose. Her mother, Ejia Fatima, nearly fainted. An Igbo man, she gasped. Aisha, have you lost your mind? Her father, Alhaji Suleiman, sat quietly, his face unreadable. He finally spoke. Aisha, you are my only daughter, he said. How can you marry someone who is not from the north? Daddy, I love him, Aisha pleaded. Her mother shook her head. Love is not enough. Marriage is about family, culture, and respect. Aisha clenched her fist. Mommy, Chidi is a good man. He is kind, respectful, and even wealthier than me. What more do you want? Her mother scoffed. It's not about money. How can you understand each other? You don't even speak the same language. Aisha's heart sank. She knew this fight would not be easy. I will not bless this marriage, her mother declared, storming out. Her father sighed. Aisha, you have made your choice. But you must also live with the consequences. Aisha felt a lump in her throat. Would she really have to choose between her family and Chidi? As if things weren't bad enough, Chidi's family also had their concerns. And Hausa girl, his uncle, Chief Okonkwo, said, frowning. Chidi, why not marry a proper Igbo woman? Uncle, Aisha is a wonderful woman, Chidi replied calmly. She is everything I want in a wife. His mother, Mama Ada, sighed. But my son, how will she cook our Igbo meals? Does she even know how to make ofensala? Chidi laughed. Mama, is it food that makes a marriage? Aisha will learn, and I will teach her. His mother was still skeptical, but she loved her son too much to stop him. If she makes you happy, then I will support you, she finally said. His uncle grumbled but eventually nodded. If she respects our culture, we will welcome her. Chidi smiled. She will. Aisha knew she had to prove herself to Chidi's family. One weekend, she visited his mother's house and spent the whole day in the kitchen, learning how to cook Igbo dishes. She pounded yam until her arms ached. She struggled with the spices for bitter leaf soup. She almost cried while cutting onions for jollof rice. But when she served the food, Chidi's mother took a bite and smiled. This girl has tried, she said. Chidi beamed with pride. I told you, Mama. Aisha felt a warmth in her heart. Slowly, she was becoming part of his world. One evening, Aisha's father called her. Come home, he said. Her heart pounded as she entered her family house. To her surprise, Chidi was already there, sitting across from her father. Daddy. Aisha whispered. Her father looked at her, then at Chidi. This man has been coming here every day, he said. He has refused to give up on you. Aisha's eyes widened. Chidi, you? Chidi smiled. I told you, Aisha. I will fight for you. Her father sighed. A man who fights for my daughter is a man worthy of her. You have my blessing. Tears welled in Aisha's eyes. Her mother still wasn't happy, but her father's approval was everything. Chidi held Aisha's hand. You are mine, Aisha. And I am yours. She nodded, smiling through her tears. Forever. Their wedding was grand, a perfect mix of Hausa and Igbo traditions. Aisha wore a stunning red and gold ISI Ego dress for the Igbo traditional wedding, dancing to high-life music as elders blessed their union. For the Hausa ceremony, she dressed in a dazzling blue and silver attire, sitting gracefully as her friends applied beautiful henna designs on her hands. It was a wedding that shook the whole of Lagos. People whispered, the Northern Princess and the Igbo billionaire. Who would have thought? But for Aisha and Chidi, none of that mattered. As they stood together, holding hands, they knew love had won. Accent or no accent, culture or no culture, love was in every word. And it was all they needed. Aisha was the kind of girl every man wanted. She was tall, beautiful, and rich. Her father, Alhaji Musa, was a wealthy businessman in Lagos, and he made sure Aisha had everything she wanted. But there was one thing she did not have: true love. From the time she was 18, Aisha had been looking for love. She met many handsome men, but they all wanted only one thing: her money. Aisha did not mind at first. She enjoyed spending money on them. She bought them expensive clothes, cars, and even paid for their trips abroad. But in the end, they always left her for someone else. Now, Aisha was 28 years old. She was tired. She had given up on love. "I will never marry," she told herself. "I will just enjoy my life alone." One evening, she sat in her living room, watching TV. Her best friend, Kemi, was with her. "Aisha, you are too beautiful to remain single," Kemi said.
I am done with men. They are all the same. They love my money, not me.
"Not all men are like that," Kemi said. "Maybe you just have not met the right one." Aisha sighed. "Even if I meet the right man, I am not sure I will love him." But fate had a different plan for her. 1 week later, Aisha traveled to Abuja for a business meeting. She was the CEO of her father's company, and she had to attend an important event. The meeting was at a big hotel, and many rich businessmen were there. That was where she met Chidi. Chidi was different from the men Aisha had known. He was not only rich, but he was also confident and intelligent. He owned many businesses in Nigeria and abroad. When Aisha first saw him, she was impressed. Chidi walked up to her. "Good evening, beautiful lady. My name is Chidi." Aisha smiled. "Good evening. I am Aisha." They started talking, and for the first time in years, Aisha felt something different. Chidi was not after her money. He had his own. He was also kind and funny. But there was a problem. Chidi had a strong Igbo accent. Whenever he spoke, Aisha found it hard to take him seriously. She had grown up in Lagos, where people spoke English fluently, and she was not used to Chidi's way of speaking. Aisha,